Today we're going to be doing a centred application of a regular zip. This is one type of zip I rarely use, but everybody likes to know how to do it. So I'm going to show you today, and then you can add this zip to your repertoire. It would be used on skirts, dresses or trousers. So before the invention of the invisible zip, this would have been used a lot more commonly. You'll see it on a lot of vintage clothes as well. Usually with metal teeth zips. It's actually one of the hardest zips to get a really good finish on, because you need to make sure that everything is lovely and symmetrical. But I'll take you through the steps and show you my tips to get it looking fabuloso. So for the centred zip application, we want a regular zip. So this is a zip with the pull and the teeth on the front side. You will also need some fabric to insert it into, so we're just going to use some calico. You will need a zip foot, some contrasting thread to do your basting stitches with, an unpicker to unpick your basting stitches, some small scissors and a measuring gauge, seam gauge, and some double-sided quilter's tape. So this is the wash away quilter's tape. Does not stick or gum up your needle, and it's just a double-sided tape. I will pop the link to purchase that in the link box. Just press pause on the video and you should be able to see it. First thing is first, we've got our fabric here. We've got our zip. So I'm going to mark this with pencil so you can see it, but you would use chalk or a friction pen, something like that. So what I'm going to do with this one, because it's really tricky to get a good finish on the centred zip application when you have to go around your zip pull. So the best way I have found to do this is to buy a zip longer than you need by a couple of inches, so that we can just have the top hanging above, and then we can chop the zip off here. I'll show you when we get to this bit, but the zip would be down here and we trim off the top of the zip and finish off the end so that the zip pull didn't come off the end. So we're just going to mark it here. So this is where we want our zip to end. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to sew from the top of the garment to this point with a long basting stitch, and then I'm going to back tack here and sew the rest of the seam with your regular 5/8 seam allowance all the way down, and a regular stitch length. So I'm going to sew the bottom section first, and we are just going to start just a little bit below it, needle down, back tack back to the marker, and then come forwards. And a few stitches in reverse. Okay, so it's the longest stitch length. I'm just going to sew from the top with the 5/8 seam allowance to meet our stitches here. All I'm going to do now is just press this seam open along there. Okay, so you can see on here, I'll just draw it on so you can see a bit more clearly. That is where the basting stitches start. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to put some tape onto our zip, and we are going to slowly roll this up so that it sits with the teeth along the stitch line. So we want to just do it about 1 millimetre from the teeth on both sides at the same time. So this minimises the need for pinning. You don't need to pin, and it holds it in position while you base, so you've got your stitches on the right side of the sample. zip. Okay, so we're going to start here. It's easiest to roll it towards you so you can see what's happening. So we'll start with our zip pull at the bottom where the teeth match. Then roll carefully. I've got my face as close to the table level as possible so that I can see that what is actually happening is that the teeth are going, the middle of the teeth are going along the middle of that seam line and all the way to the top. I'm just going to do here, just going to peel back this excess tape at the top so that we don't get stuck to anything we shouldn't, and that it stays stuck where it should be. So I'm just going to mark about 7.5 millimeters from the line, from the stitch line, all the way around this, so that we will have a nice even, basically 1.5 centimeters around the zip, to allow your zip pull to pull up and down as required. So we just want to mark the bottom where your zip pull is and the end of the basting stitch, and then we'll come up the other side like so. So if your marking method isn't as accurate as this method, so if you're trying to use chalk and you're getting a really fat, horrible line, then one of the easiest ways to mark this would be with a basting stitch, and you can do that from this side so that it keeps you nice and accurate, or you can do it from the right side with your sewing machine. Okay, so we're going to start at the top right of the zip, so I'm going to use the left hand side of the zip. And no matter how many times I do it and how many years I've been doing this, I always have to check which side of the zip foot I use by actually physically putting the zip foot onto the machine. So we're lining up the front edge of the zip foot with the guideline markers that I have drawn in place, and I'm just going to move my needle just to the left slightly so that the needle position comes down just in line with the edge of the presser foot. That way we know we're getting a really accurate stitch because it's following the line as we sew. So I've forgotten to change my stitch length back to 2.5. So part of this will be done with a basting stitch, but you will get the idea of what you need to do to get this nice and accurate. So we're back down to the correct stitch length. We're down to the end marker, and this is where you need to take care that you do not hit your zip stop at the bottom, particularly if you've got a metal ended zip. And I hand wheel across this for accuracy, and also you can feel if you're going to hit that zip stop at the end, which obviously you do not want to do. So we're now sewing up this other side. Like so. A few stitches in reverse, and then we can trim off any thread tails there. Okay, so this is where your unpicker comes in. You want to try and remove all the bits of your basting. You don't want any little thread tails hanging out. So the slower and more methodically you can do this, the easier you will find it to get all the bits. Use the unpicker to just gently pull them out Just done it again. If I can just hook the end of my unpicker in, get that bit, and we'll just gently remove these stitches. We'll just use some tweezers if we need to pull out these little bits. So you can just put your unpicker in and slide and remove all these little bits of threads. Okay, so imagine all those little bits are gone. So now we can pull our zip down to wherever, and we can sew across these top bits, so over the teeth, so that you don't pull the zip off the end. I'll show you how to do that now. Back to a regular foot. And I'm going to reduce the stitch length down to 1. You do each side individually. I'm just going to keep the edge of the foot level with the top of the fabric, so we're within the seam allowance. I'm just going to go backwards and forwards over the teeth with a short stitch length. I'll show you now. When we zip that zip up, it won't go past that point. So I'll just do the other side. And then you can trim all the threads off. We can trim the top of the zip tape off. Safe in the knowledge that our zip will not go beyond that. So now you could sew your facing onto here or your waistband, whatever you need to finish off the top of your zip, and that would sit like so, with your zip all tucked inside.